Good evening and welcome to Biz RoundUp. I am Tamirun Nimsat and we at Art Television bring you a collection of business highlights. Let's have a look at the headlines. Sri Lanka tourism earns over $1.5 billion for the year. ADB grants assistance to reform water supply sector in Sri Lanka. Chinese presidential envoy calls on the nation's top leaders. News in detail. President Ranil Wickremesinghe expressed his desire to integrate the entire South Asian region as one tourist destination in order to provide an enhanced experience more for tourists. He also said that the newly appointed Maldivian President Mohamed Muizzu expressed interest in making the initiative a reality. The President said this delivering the keynote address at an event in Colombo.
When I was in Maldives yesterday and I had discussion with the new President Muizzu, we were wondering why we cannot have Sri Lanka and Maldives as one tourist area. So there's new thinking on all sides. How do we work together? And I thought I will devote my time on how the region can get together. After all, you have to remember that the economic power is coming into Asia. You already have East Asia, which is well established. You have ASEAN, which together they say can be the fifth or the fourth largest economy in the world. And then we have this part of the world. India by itself will be the third largest economy, but we must also function as a region. I don't think we will have the model of the Asia Pacific totally integrated, but nevertheless, in some sectors, we can certainly promote integration and leave the other sectors out. That's the only way I think that South Asians will be able to work together with anyone else. Sri Lanka is going to be, because we have decided, I put forward a new economy during the budget proposals. Actually, I had no budget proposals. I only had proposals regarding the new economy. Having recovered from the economic crisis, restructure, what were our main names? One was the trade surplus, other was the budgetary surplus, and to modernize. So what our principal objectives are? Competitive economy, digital transformation, energy transition, and a green economy. A regional logistic hub. Utilize Industry 4 technology for the future.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe underscored the potential of Sri Lanka in becoming an exporter of renewable energy in line with the predicted growth of renewable energy requirements in the future. The President also said that a multi-agency committee will formulate a cabinet paper providing recommendations for an energy transition law to facilitate this objective. The President said this speaking at the Sri Lanka Green Hydrogen Symposium held in Colombo on Tuesday.
According to the UN Secretary General, there has to be a tripling of the renewable energy capacity by 2030. That's where we are. What is the share that we can take out of it? Firstly, looking at it broadly as the international objective, the one of reaching 1.5 degrees centigrade target. The other is how do we benefit from it. Both those are interesting. So we have at the moment the potential of becoming an energy exporter, and that's what we have to think of. How are we going to maintain this goal? How are we going to achieve this goal? It also means energy independence for Sri Lanka. Look at the immense capability we have. We should not let go of it. Maximum value addition. Look at the solar power. Look at the old reservoirs. Look at the canals. We must have all this. So this is why Sri Lanka will have an energy transition law and a new immediately I'll be setting up a new committee which will have multi-agency committee. The cabinet paper will most probably be submitted to cabinet next week. But we have to take a holistic view on it. How are we going ahead? Because you are faced with this issue that the price of energy from these new units at the moment will be higher than that of fossil fuels. So we have to not merely look at the price, but also its impact in the long term. Does it benefit us or not? If that is so. Secondly, also the cost of capital. Are we to wait until the debt sustainability is achieved, which should be by end of the year, and then the markets start stabilizing, which will be sometime mid-year and we get a benefit of it? Or do we start now, which will be higher? We have to remember all this. At the moment, money is expensive for Sri Lanka. So we have to take some of those decisions, which is why I want this committee to review all the decisions, taking the economy into account.
Speaking at the event, the High Commissioner of India for Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagli, said that the Indian economy will grow by over $1 trillion each year for the next 40 years, creating a vast demand for green energy. The High Commissioner said that through enhanced power energy connectivity with India, Sri Lanka will easily be able to export the energy surplus to India.
connectivity in the sphere of power and energy. It's just not about energy security of Sri Lanka. It's also about the potential that Sri Lanka has, which we are aware, the potential that Sri Lanka has to export its energy surplus. India is an economy which is growing very fast. It is among the fastest growing large economies of the world. It's already crossed $3 trillion, inching towards $4 trillion. But the important point here is that it took us 60 years, from 1947 to 2007, to reach the first trillion mark. But for the next 40 years, that is from 2007 to 2047, when we turn 100, and a few months after that, Sri Lanka will turn 100. During those 40 years, we hope to add another $29 trillion to the economy. So if you divide 29 by 40, which roughly means, on an average, $1.5 trillion per year. $1.5 trillion per year. It does not only require energy, it requires clean and green energy. And that's where the potential of energy exports from Sri Lanka lies.
A discussion between the government of Sri Lanka and representatives from the Asian Development Bank took place at the Presidential Secretariat. The meeting was chaired by the Chief of Presidential Staff Sagala Ratnayaka and was attended by Minister Jeevan Thondaman on Monday. The focus of the meeting was on the water supply sector reform program in Sri Lanka, which is said to be implemented through financial assistance from the Asian Development Bank. The deliberations primarily addressed the policy planning and monitoring framework integral to the proposed reform program. The key objectives of these reforms revolve around enhancing the management of climate-resilient, safe and environmentally sustainable water supply systems. The discussions also delved into strategies for fortifying the policy framework, emphasizing governance, sustainability, efficiency, resilience and capacity in water operations. It was underscored that the initiative would be undertaken collaboratively by the Prime Minister's Office, the Ministry of Water Supply and the National Water Supply and Drainage Board. The Secretary of the Ministry of Water Supply, RMWS Samaradivakara, and Asian Development Bank's Country Director, Takafumi Kadano, were also present at this meeting. Stay tuned. We will return after this short commercial break. Welcome back after the break. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena said there is a vast potential for further expanding economic cooperation between China and Sri Lanka and that China's continuous support is highly valued by Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister said this when Chinese State Councillor Shen Yiqin met him at the Temple Trees office in Colombo recently. The Prime Minister said that Sri Lanka would welcome investments from China in agriculture for production and export, renewable energy, IT, education and infrastructure development. Special Envoy Shen Yiqin said China looks forward to expand cooperation, invest in new projects, Colombo Port City, Hambantota Port, poverty alleviation programs, education and agriculture. She said China is happy to see the progress made by Sri Lanka to overcome difficulties and assured China's continuous support to the efforts to meet the economic challenges. The Prime Minister made a special mention about the Chinese stand in support of Sri Lanka's independence and sovereignty at all international forums. Chinese Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Ki Shenghong, and a group of senior Chinese officials took part in this discussion. The Special Envoy of the Chinese President, State Councillor Mrs. Shen Yiqin, and the delegation also paid a courtesy call on President Ranil Wickremesinghe at the Presidential Secretariat. According to the Presidential Media Division, the primary focus of the meeting was to enhance tourism and trade relations between the two countries. During the meeting, the President expressed gratitude for China's support to Sri Lanka, notably acknowledging their assistance in the country's debt restructuring program. President Wickremesinghe extended sincere thanks to the Chinese President and the government for their invaluable support in this regard. President Wickremesinghe also expressed desire to cooperate in the fields of tourism, sports and agriculture. The President further highlighted that both the Hambantota Port and Port City are currently prepared for investment opportunities. The President also outlined the measures taken by Sri Lanka to access the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. The Chinese Special Envoy stated that China is also prioritizing the extension of the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor to Sri Lanka. Additionally, both parties agreed to expedite the implementation of the China-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement. Sri Lanka Tourism announces that it has earned 1.59 billion US dollars during the first 10 months of the year, with a remarkable arrival of over 100,000 tourists in the first 20 days of November. India, Russia, Germany, the UK and Australia are the countries which are attracted by Sri Lanka to achieve a positive outlook for its economy. Tourism sector is experiencing a striking rebound as the country welcomed over 100,000 tourists in the first 20 days of November, pushing the cumulative figure to over 1.2 million. The daily average arrivals in November were shown as 5,070 compared to 3,523 visitors in October. India re-emerged as the top source market for tourist traffic during the first 19 days of November, with 18,760 visitors accounting for 19% of the total arrivals, pushing Russia to second place with 15,855 visitors. Germany, with a figure of 9,166 tourists, takes the third position, followed by the UK with 7,639 visitors and Australia with 5,597 visitors. Additionally, tourists from China, the United States, France, Poland and the Czech Republic also contributed to the increasing visitor numbers in November so far. Industry analysts opine the resurgence of the tourism industry signifies a positive outlook for Sri Lanka's economy, as the sector plays a pivotal role in attracting foreign exchange, creating employment opportunities, boosting the local economy and promoting cultural exchange. Looking at the year-to-date figures, India remains a strong contender as the leading source market for Sri Lanka, with an impressive cumulative number of arrivals reaching 247,292. Russia closely follows with 158,784 visitors and the United Kingdom with 106,936 visitors. Sri Lanka Tourism also added that they are confident of attracting 1.55 million tourists and earning 2.5 billion by the end of the month. Stay tuned. We will return after this short commercial break. Welcome back after the break. UNICEF country representative for Sri Lanka, Christian Skog, said that over 40% of children under 5 years in the country are deprived of health, education, adequate living standards or early childhood development. The UNICEF country representative said this speaking at the 34th anniversary of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child in Colombo on Monday.
According to the recent Child Multidimensional Poverty in Sri Lanka, more than 4 out of 10, or 42.2%, of children under 5 years are deprived or live in a household deprived in 2 or more basic rights related to health, education, adequate living standards, or early childhood development. Also, as per the national assessment conducted by the Ministry of Education over 2021 and 2022, only 14% of grade 3 students reached all essential learning competencies in literacy. In numeracy, it was 15%. Yet these competencies form the foundation on which children build their knowledge and different skills for the future. In addition, across Sri Lanka, over 10,000 children are in institutional care or detention, living in conditions that fall far short of what they need to develop their full potential. Over 90% of these children have a family to go to, and with the right support could return home.
Speaking at the event, Christian Skog also urged the implementation of an alternative care policy with primary focus on providing family-based solutions for orphan children in Sri Lanka. He further called for a ban and criminalization of all forms of corporal punishment, pointing out the long-term effects it can have on developing children.
Evidence shows that as little as $10 to $15 can provide a child with remedial education and strengthen education systems to help ensure every child learns the critical foundational skills. The Ministry of Education has developed a strategy for 2023 to 2025 for implementing a comprehensive learning recovery program for primary education, and all 9 provinces have developed costed action plans. While these are really encouraging steps, it is important these plans are adequately resourced, including financially, and implemented effectively. Third, tackle all forms of violence against children. This means implementing the alternative care policy. UNICEF urges the operationalization of this policy, which outlines a comprehensive range of alternative care options, primarily finding family solutions for all children, and encourages reforming all formal structures that provide services for affected children. Also, the country needs to take urgent steps to ban and criminalize corporal punishment in all settings. It is not acceptable, not beneficial for anyone, that although its use and harmful effects are known in Sri Lanka, corporal punishment remains lawful for parents and teachers to be physically and emotionally violent towards children in the name of discipline and correction.
The Sri Lanka USA Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce elected Charitra Hettiarachchi as its president at the 7th Annual General Meeting held in Colombo recently. Ambassador of the United States to Sri Lanka, Julie Chang, attended the event as the chief guest.
Ambassador of the United States to Sri Lanka recognized the challenging journey that Sri Lanka has traversed since the previous annual general meeting in August of the previous year. Ambassador Julie Chang acknowledged the resilience of Sri Lankan people, the abatement of inflation and the gradual reduction of shortages. She stressed the importance of Sri Lanka's commitment to regulatory and economic reform, inclusive of equitable debt restructuring and fiscal transparency enhancement. She also emphasized the creation of an attractive regulatory environment and the fortification of democratic governance. President-elect Charita Hettiarachchi expressed the Council's commitment to strengthening ties between Sri Lanka and the USA in the areas of trade, tourism and development. He also outlined the Council's goals, which include creating networking opportunities, advocating for member companies and providing educational resources. Hettiarachchi further expressed gratitude to the government of the United States for the support extended during Sri Lanka's time of need, especially during the last 2 years.
With that, we wind up for today. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. See you tomorrow with State of Business at 7:45 p.m. Take care and good night.